to all the tweens out there. It is Sunday, and I hope you're doing well. I'm here in the factory again by myself, really missing all of you being here in the chairs, looking at me, listening. And it seems like it's been so long, I almost forget what it feels like to not be looking at a camera sitting on a tripod. I know for some of you it's been harder than others, so if you're having a rough day or a rough week, send me an email or reach out however you can, and I'm happy to talk to you. Even if I've already spoken with you at some point, I always love talking to the tweens and hearing about what's going on in your world. And as I've been talking to you, a lot of you have been asking about a very special person here at the Tweens Ministry. She doesn't actually come to the tweens. Anybody have any guesses who I might be talking about? It's Tanya. She's been a part of the Tweens Ministry since September, and we all together have been giving toonies, loonies, some of you even more, which is awesome, every month to send to her family so that they can have food, they can have a place to live, and they can live in a community that will share God's love with them. And it's crazy to me, and I'm so proud of all of you, that as tweens, you have made a huge difference in the life of this family. And some of you have been asking, so I'm going to put a link and an explanation in the description if you want to send her money, but you can go to thechurch.to/donate and make sure you follow the instructions down there. And some of you maybe don't even know what offerings are. So at church, here at Tweens, we have a bucket. It looks like this. And every week, we take it and pass it around, and some of you drop in a quarter, a loonie, a toonie. Some of you have brought $20 bills, which is pretty crazy for a tween. And all of that money has gone to help this family. But in the main church, parents get a bucket that looks very similar. And that money comes to help the church do everything that it is doing, both to help people in the church and people in our community that are in need. That lets all the stuff we do at the church work. And in the Old Testament, they called it tithes. And tithes was every time someone got paid or got something for what they worked for, they would give 10% of that to the temple, to the priests. And that helped to feed the priests, and that helped the temple to do everything that it needed to do to help the Israelites as they followed God. And so today in church, we continue to take tithes, and you'll hear sometimes pastors talk about this 10%. That was from the Old Testament. But in the New Testament, Jesus actually talks about something even crazier. This concept of radical generosity. Everybody find someone in your house, in your room, and say, radical. Pretend to be on a surfboard, maybe. Radical! Radical generosity. And that means that you go above and beyond to be a blessing to the people around you with the things and the money that you have. So there's a story in the Bible that really helps us to understand what Jesus was referring to when he talks about generosity in the New Testament. Now in Mark chapter 12, we'll wait for you to get your Bibles. Go find them. Find Mark. It's the beginning of the New Testament. Chapter 12. Hopefully you got there. You can do it faster. If you had a phone, you could just go to the Bible app, type it right in, you'd be there like this. Anyway, in Mark chapter 12, Jesus is sitting with his disciples, and we're going to read it together. Jesus sat down near the collection box, which is like the offering bucket, in the temple and watched as the crowds dropped their money. Many rich people brought large amounts. Then a poor widow came and dropped in 2 small coins. Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I tell you the truth, this poor widow has given more than all the others who are making contributions. For they gave a tiny part of their surplus, but she, poor as she is, has given everything that she had. And so here you see that to Jesus, it's not about how much or how little you have, it's about how generous you are with the things that you have been given. And so in this story, we see one type of person, the people who had lots of money. I'm sure lots of you would love to be these people. It wasn't radical. It wasn't something that cost them a lot to give. But then he sees this woman who is poor. She didn't have a lot. She didn't have family to take care of her. And she went all day and found 2 coins in her home. And now she could have used this to buy some things that she needed, but she knew that God was doing something incredible, that there were people in the world who were hurting more than her, and that she needed to do her part to be a blessing. And so she took those 2 coins and she dropped them in the bucket. And Jesus looked at her and said, she gets it. She understands what it means to be radically generous, to give what you have been given to those who need it, to be a blessing and to partner with God. Not to just give the minimum 10%, not to just do the very least that you can and still feel like you're doing a good job, but to be a blessing with everything that she had. And there's 2 things I feel like we can learn from this. The first is to be grateful. Be grateful that you are blessed with so much. And it's easy to look around at your friend over there and your sibling over there and see what they have and what they're up to and be jealous. But there are people like Tanya and so many around the world that are just grateful to have food in the morning. Now, I actually got a letter from her this week, which I didn't know when I was planning on talking about her. But this is a picture that she sent, and part of the money that we sent gave her family a special gift of food for them to celebrate recently. And they were so happy just to get this big bag of rice. It was like up to her waist, this bag of rice, and a thing of what looks like apple juice that would be like a whole classroom. So they got a huge thing of apple juice and a huge thing of rice. And she wrote this long letter thanking us so much for sending them some extra money to let them have this beautiful gift. And that's crazy that you all were able to come together to do this for this family. But sometimes we have so much more than that, and we're not even grateful for the things that we have. So be grateful for what you have. And the second thing is that we need to live radically generous lives. And that means when you get your allowance, make sure at least 10% of it you find a way to give it to the church so that we can continue to do things like this and bless others. But even maybe some more of that money, you could find other ways to bless people, maybe buy some snacks for your younger brother or sister. But beyond just money, what things do you have, what talents do you have that you can use to be a blessing to those around you? Do you have a favorite toy that your brother or sister loves to play with, but you always want to keep it for yourself because you're afraid that they won't give it back or that they're going to damage it? Maybe find a way this week to be generous with your stuff and let them play with it, let them have a turn, or play with it together in a way that normally you wouldn't because it's yours. And just these little things that we can do to live radically generous lives, understanding that everything we have comes from God and we can use everything we have to bless others the way that God has blessed us. So this week, I want you to continue to look for ways to be generous with your money, with your time, and with your stuff. And I look forward to hearing. Send me an email with anything that you've come up with. Feel free again to give, and hopefully we will see you all back in the factory soon. I love you all and miss you so much. Hope you're doing well, and I hope you have a great and very blessed week.